Has power creep gone too far? It's time for another community discussion. How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We got another Dokkan Battle video for you here today. We have the next community discussion during this year's Global Download Celebration, or Global Dokkan Celebration, if you will. And this time we have quite the doozy of a discussion, as this is a concern people have been sharing since the start of the Global Dokkan Campaign. So the big question we have here is, has power creep gone too far, too fast during this celebration? We put out a couple questions here in regards to that prompt on both Twitter and our YouTube community post. So we'll be taking a look at both of those. I encourage everybody, whether you are in Discord, Twitter, or YouTube, to comment here in order to get your comments seen. So in the future, that is how we'll be handling this. So let's take a look here. So let's start with the setup. 10th anniversary basically introduced us to the largest HP inflation we had ever seen since the jump from Legendary Vegeta event to Red Zone. And this wasn't too bad because it was manageable by having units like Tech Vegito, AGL Gogeta, the 7-year LRs, who were dealing nearly 3 times as much damage as they were relative to previous content. So, right, this jump, while crazy, was manageable. But with the introduction of the Global Dokkan Campaign, the shift back to short content, we have seen a massive raise in both unit and boss stats, right? Like, if we just take a look at, for example, what let's say the final stage Gogeta is doing here, right? Gogeta is starting turn 1 with a 2 million super, and that doesn't seem like much until you realize every turn he's getting 40% stronger, meaning that by the end of this, right, this is a 8 or 9 million super on turn 4, with many units not being able to build up that fast. Goku Black and Rose Moss are even worse, right? Goku Black having the ability to build up this 3 million super and this 1.2 million attack by 30% with each attack received, meaning that by the end he's dealing like an 11 million super, right? We have bosses here that were just beyond any level that we could have expected from any campaign this year, really, especially one where we were pitted against these bosses turn 1. This was the largest jump we'd seen in quite some time, and then, just when we thought it couldn't get any worse, GDC introduced the hybrid Saiyan special battle, which shifted the meta even further, with units only released in the beginning of this celebration, like the Gogeta, like the Rose and Zamasu, like the Omega, who are barely able to keep up in this fight against the onslaught of crazy attacks that these guys are dealing. Remember, right, if we're talking about Gohan here, right, the final boss here, only 600, only 1.6, doesn't seem like a lot until you look at what's happening. With each attack that he performs in the final phase, right, he's getting 100% stronger, up to 1,000%. And that's not even talking about what happens right here on turn 1. That's assuming you can even make it to that phase. On turn 1, you're dealing with an 11 million super right out the gate, right? Making it feel like you are essentially in a dodge or die scenario constantly. This was jarring for many people, right? But in spite of that, right, what we have learned from this is that the whole year has introduced us to a plethora of different content and for different units, but one constant has remained since the beginning, right? The stats of the bosses are increasing very fast, that nearly 3 times that of previous years, and it feels like some units are no longer viable or no longer relevant, right? Think units released earlier this year, like the Golden Week units, they feel like they're unusable here. So the question is, does this feel like, do you feel that power creep has moved too fast? here as a result of these two the introduction to these two crazy battles. So let's start by looking at the responses here on Twitter, right? So we have Soul here. All right, he says it seems fine that power creep geared towards certain units and teams, and that's okay. It's good to eliminate. It's a good idea to eliminate. I'll use the one team to beat everything. It does suck for free-to-play players, though. Now, I did pose a further question to him. All right, how do you think the items factor into this? After all, right, if we look at Omatsu's suggested team, if you guys have been paying attention to the social media campaigns, right, his team is made up of, 2-3-year-old units. Would seem like he would be expecting us to use items in these newer stages. And I do like Soul's response here, right? I have no problem using items. They've been intentionally unique with uses, and he thinks that it's time the community embraces, using items more. I like this. This is definitely something I've been saying for a while, right? I want events that are so challenging that we actually have to use the items that they give us. That's always fun. But I do like what Soul has to say here about the idea of having certain events geared towards certain teams, right? No more is it just use the top 6 and auto win. I like that. Moving on, we have the GOAT, Toon Rami here. Really do appreciate what he had to say here and the fact that he did chime in. So Toon says, before GDC, I think the case could have been made that things were moving a little too fast, but even then, I wouldn't have minded it. A lingering challenge that cannot easily be overcome would stick around longer and fester for multiple celebrations after. It would give me a direction on where to focus your team building and account strategy moving forward. This is actually how I started playing Dokkan. My whole reason for appreciating free-to-play was my inability to beat Clash for the first 3 or 4 releases. I had to farm out a ton of free-to-play units to have enough pieces for every fight. Beating Clash was the sole focus for a few months and nothing else. Now that we're in the end of GDC and they've shown that they are clearly capable of writing ample characters to match the challenging content, I think Dokkan is in a good place. Power creep isn't the issue, it's having a healthy variety of good units. If that isn't a problem, then power creep isn't a term that anyone should care about. Items also exist. Use them. Of course. I do like that, right? I think Toon makes an excellent point. I was in the same situation when I started my global account, right? Back in 2020, not being able to complete Clash for a while, and I did exactly the same thing. Grind out every free-to-play character imaginable until I had enough characters to actually take the event on. And it wasn't, I started the account at WCC that year, and I don't think I was able to complete it till the 6th anniversary. After that is when I was able to make my first completion. So, that's a really good point. And I like this. I have been saying this for a little while, that I think it's a great idea to have this event that is just impossible to beat, or maybe not impossible, but incredibly difficult. Festival of Battles seemed like it could have been that, but it's the 4-hour time sink was really off-putting for a lot of people, but I like that, right? If the final fight here, which is probably going to be this Gohan, if the final fight here ends up being a fight that we just can't win right away, like none of our units can beat it, I think it would be really cool to keep devising strategies, keep looking at how new units are being released that might assist us in building this. It gives a whole new meaning to the should you summon type videos, right? Is this character gonna help me beat this event? That's huge. I think for a game like Dokkan, where the main thing is the PvP aspect, or the PvE aspect rather, I think that's huge. And I think Toon brings up a really, really good point here. So, yeah, it might not actually be power creep. It's just right now we're in a position where we don't have enough units to build enough different teams to take down these events, right? Because some of the teams just aren't built for it, built for this new event, right? You take, for example, if we just look at, I'll just use this because they're all here in the picture, right? Gogeta's team does horrible in the new Gohan event, but Gogeta's team dominates the special battle fights here. Blue Goku and Vegeta seem to be kind of okay in the new fights, although they don't really push a lot of the damage out, but the rest of the members of their team can. Omega and Rose completely shut the fights down due to all the debuffing, so it's like, I mean, I like that, having different setups and different teams that can take down these events. It's a really cool idea. Moving on, we also have, I really hope I'm saying this right, Cereale? I hope I said that right. I don't think power creep is moving too fast. It's not like back in 2022 where our units were actually struggling to keep up. Right now, it's more of a matter of ability-specific fights, dodge, debuffing, counters, etc. We have the tools to deal with all of these bosses, right? Again, that's a really great point. I do think that, and I've been saying this even since 10th anniversary, with the introduction of Battle Hardened Formidable Foes, Festival, and the different styles of red zones, is that there's no one answer to every fight. There's no one team that can deal with every fight, right? There are long events, there are short events, and now we have both in combination with types of strategies and types of debuffs or mechanics that the bosses have that we have to figure out how to deal with. You know, it's the comments about being back in 22, if you guys remember, you know, I don't think until after Worldwide, most of the TUR releases really struggled in Red Zone Broly. The ROF Blues, they struggled heavily in that fight. Raditz, I mean, well, Raditz was Raditz. Ginyu was barely passable in the fight. But, you know, he was mostly carried by a lot of the other units on the team, the more powerful units, right? Because if you tried to run full Ginyu Force, you were going to struggle in that fight. Cell's team did okay. I mean, if we talk about that, like, I'm fairly certain I'm still the first person to get the full Android Cell Saga team run with him back during that time, and it was a tough one. Like, it was not easy. So I think maybe Gohan's team probably didn't struggle that much, just because there were a lot of good Goku's family unit teams. But again, yeah, after Worldwide, that's when we started to see TURs really step up their game to take down this fight. And I imagine we'll probably see something similar here. So great point, Cereale. Playmaker, appreciate the response here. I think the numbers do tell a big part of the story, but just part of it, right? They increase the damage of the bosses to be near turn 60 of the Festival of Battles, making tank units almost useless, and people are relying on dodge. At the same time, new units do the equivalent to turn 60 damage by turn 1. This is true. If you've ever seen a double Omega turn, right, throwing out 80 mil supers right away, like, you've seen this, or even the turn 3 Goten and Trunks, 120 million just straight up right away, or the super easy 8 Goten and Trunks for that matter. So yeah, this part is true. They sustained the HP amount of the 10th anniversary, but increased the basic attacks to be near 4 times what we saw in February. Not to mention bosses having skills that destroy slot 2 and 3 units. I think that power creep in itself exists, but it's also in part due to them giving a free unit. If you assume for a moment that everyone is playing has Super Vegito, then they will create scenarios not suitable for him, so you have to summon for the new units regardless of you liking them or not. That is, turns 1 through 3. To me, this is not too fast. It's just that they wanted to create new scenarios. Whether we like that or not, different fights cater to different teams and units. Short fights need to be challenging enough, so I think that that's what happens here. Sorry for the long essay. Yep, no, you know what? I appreciate you taking the time to make the multiple replies here, Playmaker. It is hugely appreciated here. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely what I was getting at, right, with the increase, right? We're looking at festival numbers on turn 1. Like, this is crazy, but it's coming from both us and the boss. In terms of attack, defense didn't quite catch up here. I mean, but obviously that would mean we were basically invincible if we were. So, I mean, that causes a problem. But I like this point. You know, I hadn't really thought about this, right? If we consider the fact that they are basically basing every unit off the fact that you grabbed Tech Vegito at the end of Anniversary, it begins to make a lot more sense why the fights are designed to be that way. They want to give you a challenge, right? They don't want Beast Gohan year where no fight is a challenge for Beast Gohan because he literally can't die. I can see them doing that. But once again, here it is again, another of that point that I was making a few days ago, right? We have difficult content catering to different teams. And so, while it does feel like power creep, it might not necessarily be so, right? Very great points. Thanks you. I appreciate it a lot, Playmaker. So, I think oh, we got some more down here. Okay. We have Platinum here. Not sure. On the one hand, yeah, increasing the damage that enemy does in lesser phases compared to the red zone stages and battle hardened formidable foes. On the other hand, while they do more damage, they cannot be taken down easier because of less HP or be debuffed, or they can be taken down, right? What I also find annoying is how units get evaluated and then they get used in these new stages and get extremely downplayed because they are not the unit typical good in everything, right? This, I love this last point here, right? Typical good in everything unit. It doesn't exist anymore, right? If GDC has shown me anything here, is like this is where we're at. There's no one unit that is perfect in everything. Every unit is catered to a specific style of content or specific event even, right? Again, like I pointed out earlier, right, with this, Omega, his team shuts down the new Hybrid Saiyans bosses hard. They can't touch him. Like, it's insane what he's doing. Add to the fact that Gohan Supers are scripted, you can basically program Omega to always cancel the super for Gohan, making you almost untouchable. So, yeah, that's really crazy to think about. I like this point, and I appreciate Platinum bringing it up. And yeah, this is a huge thing here, right? The HP on some of the lower fights, right, on the latter half of it is much lower, right? They go down in 1 to 2 hits, right? So if you remember Playmaker's point about us doing festival numbers, right, turn 60 festival numbers on turn 1 to 2, right? That means when you hit that second phase, you're taking down this 350 mil HP boss in 3 hits, depending on the rotation. So, I mean, this is a really great point for Platinum, so I do appreciate it. Moving on, our boy Raudo-kun, I do appreciate him taking the time to comment. So, I mean, you know, I'll give him a little shameless plug because I know he won't ever plug himself. But subscribe to him if you haven't checked him out. He's a great guy. He's dedicated to the game. We've done quite a few collabs with him already as well. All right, so Rado feels that power creep is a misconception people have. Power scaling is what we should use. Granted, we've seen in the past few weeks have shown us how bosses can become a bit more tougher, but same goes for the releases. The units have been such great quality that it has been a good balance, and that units provide a bit of diversification to the challenge of these fights. Also, people forget that items can be used. Thank you for bringing that up again, Raudo. Yes, items do exist, all right? And people just make it difficult for themselves. It's nice to breathe. It's a nice breath of fresh air with the new fights. Yeah. Yeah, great. I like this this term here, power scaling, right? We're having matchups here, and it's really about how do units scale up to those matchups, and I think that that's a great way to frame it, Raudo. So really do appreciate it. And a point here about the items, I just appreciate that people keep bringing that up because yeah, I mean, unless it's, you know, a super duper challenge that you want to do, I mean, items aren't necessary. I think it's great. All right, I think Rado makes a great point here. Moving on, Zaffa, I'd say no. They are just giving more units time to shine and kind of giving players more thinking power and actually try these events out. Special battles in these new blue zones are a breath of fresh air. Very good. Great point there, Zaffa. Right, kind of the same thing we've been already seeing by a lot of people, and I do appreciate that. Backspaced Catcher, you think it has? It's a bit too much increase for just 1 year. Yeah, I definitely see that. As I mentioned in the beginning, it does come down to, right, we've had a near 3 times increase this year compared to previous years, right? 2023 to 2024 did not have this large of a gap. There was a gap. It wasn't this big, right? I mean, even between now and the 10th anniversary in February, there's a huge gap. But as others have pointed out, right, our units have sort of risen to the challenge. At least certain units has. Again, we're beginning to see more variety in content and more variety in unit specification. Ricky, considering basically nothing can take the hybrid red zone bosses and the only option is to counter or dodge, I'd say yes. Power creep has shot up too quickly, so I understand where this is coming from, and this is honestly this idea right here, the dodge or die, they say, is this meta, and that's why power creep is up. But I don't think that's the case. Again, I think it's really about the matchups. Again, as I bring out, Double Omega tanks Gohan Super, by the way. If you get your Omega Shenron and you get your Rainbow Orb, and you've got at least some support on that rotation with him, he's tanking that 11 mil Super from Gohan, because consider also he's got type advantage there. He's tanking that Super. He's tanking that Super. Rose can even live the Super as well. So it's not entirely dodge or die. Really, it's just for Gogeta that's really a problem. That's because of how his defense works, right? He is a hyper offensive character. The Blues actually do die to the Super if they fail to dodge, but they do have the ability to dodge, so that's, that kind of does help them out. So yeah, I don't necessarily think it's not necessarily true that no one tanks it, right? Gohan, the new Gohan, tanks it as well. So there is that. I'm not sure how to say that, but we have 2 power creep in 1 celebration, so yes, power creep has gone too fast. It's stupid high numbers, such bad power balance since years. So again, I mean, I see the point. It feels like it has gone too fast, but again, if we take a look right at the Gohan fight, the first fight, not only can you tank him with certain characters, he loses a lot of his offense as you attack him. So high additional characters work really well here. And then same goes for here, right? In fact, right, if you want to be careful, right, bring low additional characters here, but characters can tank, and then you use low additional characters here, because high additional characters would actually buff him more. But both of them can be the first phase can be debuffed, which makes him easier to take down. Right, the Trunks, right? A lot of people were getting bodied by the Trunks. He can be completely debuffed. In fact, characters with passive debuffs shut him down entirely. Characters like STR Omega. So it feels like it is, but once you start to realize that, they're also giving us the ability to stun, to steal, to attack and defense lower, things start to really, really shift in our favor, at least when using certain teams. Steve Gatt, power creep is real, but events are made for certain units, so there's no absolute best unit in the game. Currently, each boss has a niche, and you can spend an event with a character dying of laughter, while at the same time the character dies in another event. And the meta is complex. Exactly. That's exactly it, right? You can take Omega into these fights and completely shut them down. They can't touch you. You can take the same Omega into the Omega fight in the special battle and have an extremely difficult time because he keeps getting stunned. Or worse, into the Gogeta fight, right? They do struggle in the Gogeta fight. Or even worse, right? You can take him into the boss rush fight or festival where they don't succeed as well, right? Omega actually really struggles in those boss rush fights. So, That is a really great point. We're seeing more and more people recognize that there is no best unit in the game, and it's all about the matchups. Nuno Cabrita. We also, this forces us to seek new strategies and bring back units you wouldn't normally use. Oh, I see. Okay, somehow it switched up the replies here. All right, you think the Supreme Magnificent Battle is an exception? You're still able to use all the new units to a certain extent. The new units are so insane that they had to create some content where they would struggle, and so they did. And that's a good point, right? They made Gogeta so insanely powerful, they had to give him something he would struggle with. But they also gave us ways to deal with it. If GT Heroes ever gets any other units that provide any kind of debuffs, right? Gogeta might sneak his way back in there for that fight. It just depends, right? Is LR Goku? Yes, it has, with no further explanation. Hina the Hina? I would say no, but I'm also not clearing the type of content you and other content creators clear, so I don't know if it's a fair take. Well, I mean, you've done the event yourself. You probably know, at least through your experience. But again, I would say, having read through a lot of the replies, that I do agree with a lot of people saying it's not a true power creep. It's more about creating different areas where different units can succeed. Molly Kota, it's just an unfortunate set of events since this new kind of area this year. They really should not have the next huge meta shift being like 3 years, like 7th annie to 10th annie. It's like, I'm kind of with that, right? I kind of feel like it would be okay for Dokkan to just kind of hang out here for a little bit. If you guys consider, right, like, LGE was it for a while. So I could imagine, us not seeing a major shift. I would hope, right, what would be good for all players, right, is not seeing a major shift in a while. Because one thing I want to bring up, and this is something I talked to our good buddy Joe saying about, is, while, yes, it's not a true meta shift, right, it's not a true power creep, the overall power creep since last year, right? The overall raise in boss stats, this is actually really tough for free-to-play players. And I'm specifically talking about free-to-play players who don't have a lot of the units, or new players who, might just get the new leader, but still don't have a team to fill out and take these events on, right? You're going to be reliant on free-to-play characters who we haven't been getting a lot of, and some of them aren't even getting easy A's, which is making it more and more difficult to take on these fights with these characters. So something worth noting here, right? So as long as if the meta can kind of stagnate for a bit, right, and just give us kind of a holding place here, I think we could find ourselves in a really good spot as more teams get brought up to this level. I think one of the big problems that has happened and why power creep feels so significant is what they've been doing is they build up 1 or 2 teams per year, and then they jump the content to the next level with the following year, and they've been doing that since 7th anniversary. So if we could have them stagnate for a bit here and let other teams get built up and get to this level first, I think that could be overall good for Dokkan, right? Morgoth, honestly, the GDC fights are a great challenge, the old units, and set the bar for difficulty in the future. I'd argue that we got some of the strongest units ever due to this change. STR Vegeta List being balanced to counter every content, and on the other hand, Supreme Magnificent battles are horrendous, just pure damage, no true challenge, except if you consider going back to lobby 7 times once. This should not be the basis on making boss just numbers. A 7 out of 10 for me, content difficulty wise. If they decide to go the GC battle route, it'll be great. If they go the SMB route, it'll be horrible. Yeah. I do like the special battle routes. They're really fun. I do like them. Reese, yes, it has gone too fast. And Miso, no, it hasn't because of this, right? And this is what I was talking about, how Rose's team completely shuts down, like the Trunks fight, right? Using all of the clones and a clone lead and, a clone, or not a clone, but the STR Goku Black lead, right? This can be done because the bosses can be so well debuffed. So all in all, great points. Shout out to Rattokun, Playmaker, and Toon for commenting. But let's jump over here and let's see who we've got over here. Right, so we got a couple comments. Koro, I would much prefer if they allow the current thresholds for the last 2 years before they begin to push a new power spike. The current mission they have for this with the siblings mod show that they're going too fast without giving enough of the categories perspective. We just talked about that, right? This would be a great thing for Dokkan, honestly, right? I know some people don't agree with that, but I think allowing more teams to get built up and create different niches for themselves is overall good for the game. Taiga, not gonna lie, it has skyrocketed faster than I could imagine. The Gohan Blue Zone got me very angry. I mean, during turn 1, my SDR exchange Blue Goku got one-shotted. Of course, it worked out for me well in later attempts. So I told you, they can get one-shot by Gohan if they don't dodge. And let's not forget the Super Saiyan phase, right? His attack increases as well as defense, making the fight harder. And don't get me started on the Gogeta clone fight, which you still haven't cleared. Yeah, like, that was a surprisingly difficult fight. So yeah, I can definitely feel where you're coming from, right? Coming into that Gohan event and really struggling makes it feel like power creep has gone too fast. End of the year, they're going to be doing Festival Vegito numbers from BB 2007. Well, I mean, they're kind of already there, as Playmaker points out. We're turn 60 festival numbers right now. All right, it is P. I don't think so. I think the strategies are there to win, and people are more so frustrated with the attempt limits. I hope numbers slow down a bit, and we will level here for a bit. Add some more techniques or boss units. Yeah, give us more different style of bosses. Bring all these other teams up to the level of what we're dealing with now, and I think Dokkan can find itself in a great place. I do agree. A lot of people are frustrated with the templates, myself included. Anikit, here, great job commenting, bud. Honestly, not. I think they're pushing the edge of this boundary. These supers and normals hit hard, but there aren't many normals, right? So often it's been the case where random hypo dodge or attack break dodges are the only thing a character was going to get, and for the most part, they can be nullified and predicted. They're giving you ways to get around this easily, not just face tanking. And people don't like that you're not eating and living these supers all the time. And this is a great point, right? People like to see their characters take no damage, but the reality is that's not where we're at anymore, right? Characters are taking damage, but you're given the tools in order to manage that to ensure that they don't. So I like that point. Great point, Anakin. Just bag on, you think the HP inflation was good, it put more value on offense and the few fights that are purposely overtuned offensively, so you're fine with that. Mr. Indigo, honestly, kind of. Now that half the game can't tank the new fights, there are other hard fights to play, which is nice, but this is getting a bit ridiculous. And again, back to the point we made earlier about how the, maybe all of those characters aren't designed for that, but maybe one or two are. Ragito, I think it has been going a little too fast, yes, with no further explanation. I mean, I get how you're feeling, but again, I wonder if it's more that it's a frustration out of not trying different teams, and as Anakin pointed out, or it's P pointed out, it's the attempt limits that are really getting to us. True UI, power creep has actually gone too slow. Now that's a surprising statement. I didn't expect to see that one. Twitter and some, not all, Dokkan creators are assuming that this is power creep, when really it's an extension of the type of content we have. True power creep shift was during the 10th anniversary with Vegito, which if you didn't have him, you essentially lost. Now it's, do you have characters for said content? So it's not a true power creep. So no, I do not believe power creep is moving too fast. I think it's slower than the 10 and bottom period from last year, which was a straight power creep by keeping the content the same, but inflation of numbers. Yeah, I do agree. There was a slight jump with the blue evolution and the blue Kaioken fight, and then into the Goku Frieza fight. So, this is a great point. Again, at point of having different fights for different units is really what we're saying. Peter Kellyman, right? Opinion is that rapid creep starts to look like Legends, and he doesn't like that. All right, I like Legends because you can't do anything without the new. I left Legends because you can't do anything without the new unit, and there's these fights which you definitely can't do without the new units. And if you don't have one in a lifetime, RNG with dodges. Fortunately, they made free-to-play Nova and Legion Shenron, so it's not the same at all. The reason I don't take a break from Dokkan is due to this power creep is because I have the Omega's team GT bosses like that just can't feel this power creep. 2-turn to the new Gohan fight. And again, this is what I pointed out, is that, right, the fight seem catered towards characters like Omega, who can fully debuff the boss and make him irrelevant. And lastly, just Woolies Gaming do not see the new fight as power creep. They are matchup based, and take any other team into Gohan and it's hard. Take Omega and you to turn the event. They are gimmicks on the level of the Peppy Gals event. So I don't know if I go that quite far, but I definitely agree, right? There's a bit of gimmickness here, and there's also a bit of there's also a bit of matchup, right? I feel it. People are on the edge of it, right? People are starting to realize that fights are no longer about who is the best in that fight, but rather who are the better matchups for this fight. And hopefully we can learn to implement that within our tier lists, which is something we're going to be attempting here in the next day or so. But I agree with a lot of the points that are being made, especially about the how, each character is now getting different fights to match their abilities, right? So no two characters are the perfect or the same for that matter in any events, and I really like that. I really like where they are. Those that brought up the point about us needing to kind of put in ourselves in a holding pattern in terms of content increase, I like that idea. I think that is a good thing for Dokkan, right? Let's bring storied figures up to the level of Hybrid Saiyans. Let's bring I don't know, what's a good team, right? Where they brought GT bosses. Let's bring the Ginyu Force up to this level. Let's bring Android Cell Saga up to this level. Think of a team, right? Heavenly Events. Let's bring these characters all up to this level before we move on to the next. I think that would be one of the best things that Dokkan could do, even if it means, right, we sort of stay at this level for about a year. And hopefully they take that advice. But I know from now on I am going to be looking more at matchup based events rather than doing a traditional tier list of best unit overall, because that doesn't exist anymore. We're going to start looking at units and how they play out against each fight, and sort of, rather than ranking them, just show you who and what could work where. So guys, that is it for the video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let us know what do you think of this power creep situation. If you didn't get a chance to respond, is it too fast, or do you think we are in a good spot with the new matchups, looking at units and how they match up to different bosses as opposed to just looking at how they're doing overall? Let us know in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.